Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm sitting down with staff members from West Georgia Health. I'm sitting down first of all with Director of the Wound Care Center, Janice Edenfield.
Edenfield.
And I'm also sitting down with Dr. Brahmadevi. So welcome both of you all to the show.
It's good to be here.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump right over to Dr. Brahmadevi first of all. I think I said it correctly the first time. Is it okay if I call you Dr. Brahm?
That's fine.
That's fine, okay. Dr. Brahm, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm a family physician. I graduated from LSU, Louisiana State University, and did my fellowship in geriatrics at University of Cleveland, and then started my practice in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was, I think after 4 or 6 years, I found it was very cold there. So I was looking for some warm place, and that's where LaGrange brought me. West Georgia was looking for a family doctor.
Okay.
So that's how I'm here in LaGrange. I moved here in 2009 and joined the wound care in 2011.
Okay, very good. So you're running from the cold weather, huh?
Yeah, that's right. No more snow, shoveling.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Janice, you're the director there at the Wound Care Center that Dr. Brahm comes to occasionally. We're going to talk about his frequency in just a moment. But tell us a little bit about yourself, because I understand that you're not native to LaGrange as well, correct?
That's true. I work with a company called Hologics, which the hospital contracted with, and Hologics has like 800 wound care centers over the United States. So we help manage and help them run and have best practices for the wound care center.
Oh, okay, very good. Now, the wound care, and I probably have been by you all's location a number of times, but just tell everybody, the viewing audience, where are you all located?
We're at Lee's Crossing, and what used to be the old Winn-Dixie building, they tell me.
Okay.
And we're on the end that's closest to the hospital. We're in Suite G. There's a lab, us, and then physical therapy.
Okay, what used to be the bank, I think, it
Right.
used to be bank there.
Right next to it.
Absolutely. I think that building has been kind of multiple use over the course of time. I think Enclover used to be over in that area, a restaurant where Cisco's is now.
Cisco's is still
That's
there,
right.
yeah.
Cisco's is still there, and then you got LaGrange Internal Medicine on the end there
That's
as well.
right.
That's right.
All right. So now we're talking about wound care. Help me understand what it is when we're talking about wound care, if you don't mind, Dr. Brahm.
Sure. Usually, the wounds are quite, most commonly, they start from an ulcer. This skin breakdown for whatever reason. It could be diabetes or any trauma or any surgical procedure happen. So it starts from there, and of course, most commonly in elderly population is the pressure ulcers, because they're wheelchair or bed-bound patients too.
Okay.
So these are chronic wounds, and they have different pathology, different microbes growing. Usually, we get patients referred from primary care physicians, podiatrists, surgeons, orthopedics, general surgeons, and of course, wide variety of catchment area we have.
Oh, okay.
And then they usually they are already started with conventional therapy like antibiotics, and then wound dressings, but some wounds don't improve as expected. So.
Okay.
That's where the specialty of the wound care comes in. We assess the blood flow to the wound to start from there, make sure what are the social issues, what's the nutrition part, and what medications on. So we start off from there. And it's a very comprehensive care we do there, and see if possible, if this wound care, if the wounds respond to even hyperbaric chamber, with hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Okay.
So we can talk more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment.
We classify, or what we say as a chronic wound, any wound that you've had greater than 4 weeks,
Okay.
or right at the 4-week point, is usually when the insurance companies and Medicare like for you to start trying advanced therapies.
Okay, 4 weeks.
And we
Okay.
do self-referrals, because we have a lot of patients or a lot of people who have been that will send their families. So we do self-referrals too.
Oh, okay, self-referrals. Now, and I understand, Janice, through you, that you have a staff there, and I know that Dr. Brahm comes in. Talk about some of the other staff members that are on site there.
Okay, currently we have 7 physicians on our panel, and we have a couple of surgeons, we have an occupational medicine physician, 3 primary physicians, and all of these physicians go to Jacksonville, Florida and do a week-long training, as well as our nurses. I have a staff of 3 RNs, 1 LPN, and then our hyperbaric oxygen tech.
Okay.
And they all go through the same training, and we follow the same clinical pathways that are best practices, or what they're called.
And I may add, we have a podiatrist too.
And a
you know,
podiatrist, I forgot, Dr.
podiatrist,
Warwick is there, that's correct.
He does
Okay.
a great job. And
Yes.
Okay, very good. Let me just, let's say someone that may be listening and they may have a wound similar to what you all are describing here today, and they just want to do a self-referral. What takes place on the first visit for that person?
They'll call the front desk, and Charlotte is our front desk person, and all our patients love Charlotte.
Okay.
But they'll call her, she'll give them an appointment. They'll come in, and the nurse and the physician will do a head-to-toe assessment. And we have what we call the 9 steps of healing, and they kind of look to see, do they have good blood flow? What are some of the factors? Is it do they have diabetes? Do they have other comorbidities that are keeping them from healing? What kind of treatment have they had? If it's a lower leg or lower wound, we say below the knee, they're going to get some vascular studies done.
Okay.
So that we can see, is the blood flow good? A lot of times debridement helps, but we got to know their blood flow's good.
Debridement, did you say?
You cut away the bad tissue
Okay.
to help new tissue grow.
Okay. All
And
right.
then once they do that, we have some treatments. Sometimes it's just offloading, help they get into a shoe that will take the pressure off of those sites. Or we have what we call skin substitutes or bioengineered, where you can use those and it helps the tissue regranulate and grow back. Different dressings that most physicians don't have in their office.
Okay.
So they kind of assess what's going on, why are they having the issue, and what can we do to correct it.
Okay. And I was trying to jot down things that I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you about there, the types of treatments and stuff of that nature. And I'm going to ask you another question to you, Dr. Brahm.
Sure.
Because in all of those stages, I'm going to assume, and you too, Janice, that your staff can kind of make those assessments.
Yes.
And then at what point are they referred over to Dr. Brahm?
They see the physician on the very first visit.
Oh, okay.
So they see them weekly, and sometimes, depending on the type of wound, they may come back a couple of times during the week for the nurses to do dressing changes
Okay.
and to look at their wound.
Okay, all right. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back and we're going to continue talking about wound care with Dr. Brahm and Janice here in just a moment, if you don't mind. Okay,
Sounds
ladies
good.
and gentlemen?
thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome back, City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am sitting down with the director of the Wound Care Center, Janice Eatonfield, and also sitting down with Dr. Brahm. I left off you all talking about, Janice, you were telling us some of the treatments and various of wounds, and you mentioned offloading. And Dr. Brahm, you can chime in on this as well.
Sure.
Help the viewing audience to understand what you mean by offloading, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Let's go back to the definition. Load, the pressure, or because of the gravity, let's say when we are walking, the load is on both the feet. There are some pressure points on the feet, like heel, the forefoot, and all that. If there's an ulcer, the wound is on these pressure points,
Okay.
and that's very common, actually it does, in diabetic foot ulcers, because there's a compromise with the blood flow, a compromise with the nerve endings too, so neuropathy. So at that point, what we do is, when we figure it out, the cause is the pressure, we offload it. In other words, we distribute the weight of the body surrounding the wound by putting a felt or a special diabetic shoes. So that's how, once you take off load, the pressure on the wound, and now it can heal. The blood is flowing in regularly. Otherwise, whenever you walk or put the step, it keeps on the pressure there. So that's what, and going back to the offloading in pressure ulcers from the back in nursing home patients, where we have the air mattress, so we try to make it lighter so that there's a less pressure on that skin when they're pretty much on wheelchair or on bed-bound patients. So especially in nursing homes.
And it could be a pillow or that they're sitting in the wheelchair. There's a lot of different devices that you can use for that.
To help offload that. Okay.
And sometimes we'll do if somebody's got a really bad wound that we know will heal quickly, we may do what we call total contact casting. And that's where we put them in a cast and it gets changed weekly.
Okay.
So that they can't, sometimes patients aren't compliant and they'll take the shoes off and stuff. This way we know that they can't do anything with that cast on.
Right.
So it gives them time to rest and heal.
Is that like the old day cast?
It is. The plaster repairs, you have to cut it off with a saw.
Okay. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And then I may add, we have an excellent physical therapist, West Georgia physical therapist, and the department. They come over, so it's like a comprehensive care for this,
Right.
where we have a physical therapist, the physician, and the wound care nurse, and it's a group effort where we get the cast on and assess the wound every week. It's a quite teamwork.
Yeah, it seems like it there. A lot of intensity. Now I'm going to ask the question too, and please pardon my ignorance, but I want to just talk a little bit about, so you outside and you cut yourself, you know, in pretty nice sized wound there, gash. Are we talking about you all do the same type treatment of that, or are we talking about other types? Help me to differentiate between the type of wound that we're talking about and just a normal cut.
We do that, but we had preferred to get you after the 4-week mark.
Okay.
Up to that point, you really need to clean it, and usually with normal saline, and then put a dressing on it to stop the bleeding, and go to the emergency room or either call your physician, because the main thing you got to worry about during that period of time is infection.
Okay.
And you don't want it to get infected. But sometimes people who are diabetic or people who have high blood pressure, a lot of different other medical conditions won't heal quickly.
Okay.
And especially the older population doesn't heal. And so when it gets to that 4-week method, that's when we can step in, because we have more advanced therapies that we offer and can help heal and take that off.
And I want to, obviously, I'm a primary care doctor, so please call your primary care doctor for everything, and make sure you have one.
And we do keep them in the loop with
okay.
everything that goes on. If a patient self-refers or a specialist sends them, we do let their primary care physician know what's going on with them.
Very good. Dr. Brown, let me ask you, with you being a family practitioner, most time when we get a cut, like we're outside, we want to get that alcohol, that iodine.
Sure.
Is that appropriate?
Good. Yeah, sure. Definitely. The first aid is definitely the way to go. You know, cleaning make sure, it depends on the size of the wound, if there's any chemical burn, or, you know, it depends on several factors. If it's a simple cut, obviously, you know, we clean the wound good, make sure you clean it, and then with a good normal tap water, and then if the bleeding is controlled, you know, we put a Band-Aid or a good non-pressure dressing.
Okay.
And if it does not, if it's still not controlled, then please, you know, go to the nearest urgent care or emergency room, because that's important to know what kind of wound, and there'll be proper history taking by the nurse and the physician there.
Well, I'm going to add, I grew up where my grandmother thought if you threw peroxide on everything and it boiled, it healed. Peroxide can break that down and hurt the skin, so that's not our first line of treatment.
So you're like me, that's right.
I would not
my grandmother thought if it boiled, it was good.
Yeah, it was being healed, right? That's right.
I would not recommend that. You may cause more damage to the surrounding skin and compromise its integrity.
Okay.
So I would take one step at a time.
Okay.
And please involve physicians or anyone who knows about medicine rather than grandmas.
That's right.
That's right. Well, and you got to remember, if you drop battery acid or get some kind of chemical on you, you may not feel it, so you may think it's okay, but that doesn't mean that it's not. Sometimes it's deeper than you think, and it'll burn the nerve, so you can't feel.
Okay.
But you're still in trouble. So again, we'll stress, it may seem simple, but it could turn into something more major, so always get it checked.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, Janice, you were mentioning about, wounds that are severe. Sometimes we've been around people that may have had a wound, and Dr. Brown, you can chime in as well, had a wound that basically didn't go away, and it may have been a little odorous to it. What contributes to that, if you don't mind?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, all right. So the smell, that means most likely it's infection. Usually these are certain bacteria which actually produce these kind of smells.
Okay.
So especially hydrogen sulfide or so. It tells that it's either chronic wound, or you use something wrong dressing or wrong chemical where, or for whatever reason, it goes in the wrong direction. So any smelly wound, definitely please contact your primary care physician or urgent care or or an emergency room, or you can call us. We'll help it. We'll help the patients out.
Okay.
Well, when you do that, it usually needs to be cultured so we can see what kind of bacterial it is to know which usually requires an antibiotic. And then a lot of times that skin will die and not be healthy, and that's where we talked about debridement a while ago.
Okay.
It's cutting away the bad so that the new can produce. And one of the things that we tell the patients is you may come in with something that looks small, and in 2 or 3 weeks you think it's bigger than it was, but sometimes you have to go big to heal, and that's getting all the dead and all the bad away.
Okay, very good.
So,
This is a lot of great information
It
here.
is.
Let me, as we get ready to close out, I know that Dr. Brahm, you go to the Womb Center a couple of times a week. Talk about your frequency that you go to the Janice's location.
Like I said, I'm the medical director there at West Georgia Wound Care. So I do go 4 half-a-days to wound care. I have my own office, family practice office on Parkway at West Georgia Physicians, and I also go to nursing home 1 half-a-day. In fact, I'm coming from there, so I make sure it's a lot of taxation for the patient to come to the wound care center. So we thought, especially for the family members too, they have to take off to bring their elderly family members. So by going there, we thought we'd be helping, and it is. And I enjoy what I do.
Very good. It shows. Absolutely. And Janice, I know you told everybody where you're located. If someone was listening and they wanted to contact you for any reason, or to get to Dr. Brahm as well, go ahead and give them your contact information if you don't mind.
The Wound Care Center number is 706-880-7366.
Okay, very good.
And they can call.
Okay. And Dr. Brahm, if you want to give your contact number, if you don't mind.
That would be the same.
Same number?
Same
Okay.
For wound care, and my office, Parkway office number is 706-880-7335.
Okay.
And Stacy would answer your phone calls at the family practice clinic.
Okay.
So
we got Stacy at your location and Charlotte at your location.
That's right.
All right, very good. Well, I want to thank you all for coming on and sharing this information about the Wound Care Center. It's been a pleasure and eye-opening for me, and I just thank you all both for what you do in our communities.
Well, thank you for having us.
thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am sitting down today with a gentleman from the Information Technology Center, the accounts manager, Charles Smith, better known as Bubba. Charles, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Alton.
Well, I feel like I can call you that because you and I graduated from Troop High School.
That's correct.
And I know that we have a lot of LaGrange graduates, I think, and other graduates that work within the city of LaGrange. But so it's great to sit down with a fellow Tiger Knight, I guess
Yes,
you would
it
say.
is.
Hey, Bubba, tell us a little bit about you first of all, if you don't mind.
Okay. I'm a native of LaGrange, lived here all my life, and as Alton has already said, he and I graduated together from Troop High School.
The original Troop High, might we add too, right?
As some of my old friends say, the old Troop High School.
The old school, that's right.
That's right. Back in the early 80s, 1983 is when I graduated. I still reside here in LaGrange. My wife is a school teacher at Hollis Hand Elementary School. I've got three boys. My oldest son just graduated from college in December. He actually works here in LaGrange at FLI Properties. My middle son is a junior in college. He works as an intern in the IT department for the city of LaGrange. And I have a 16-year-old at LaGrange High School.
Oh my. You got the range there, don't you?
Yes, I do.
You have the range there.
More kids than you have parents to watch them.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, Bubba, I know that you've been now with us for a number of years here at the city of LaGrange, but I think you came to us by way of Deltacom a couple years ago, correct?
That's correct. So the story with my relationship with the city of LaGrange is 20 years ago, I worked for a company, Deltacom Communications out of Columbus, where I actually worked for 18 years. But when I first took that job, I approached the city of LaGrange, and we were partners. So I actually sold services to the city of LaGrange and worked closely with the city in my stint of 18 years there at Deltacom, which was acquired by Earthlink Communications.
Okay.
And prior to that, I had actually started in the telecommunications field here in LaGrange with a small interconnect company. A lot of people are probably familiar with Telecom Enterprises that used to be here in LaGrange, and so I worked there as a sales rep, and that's where I learned about telecommunications.
Okay, well, very good. And you know, and I've seen you in action. I remember taking you to a location, there was just wires going everywhere, and you was like, okay, well, it's got to go this. And I'm like, how in the world, you know, where all these things connect to? Let me ask you a question. And I know that the city of LaGrange has been doing this, telecom and internet for a few years now. Why do you think the city got into a business like this, Bubba?
Okay. So the city acts a little different than a lot of your other private or public industries that are actually in the telecommunications field that sell internet service. We primarily got into this to bring companies and to bring people into LaGrange. You know, there was, back when the city of LaGrange got into providing internet service, other companies were not really providing services that would make a company want to leave in Atlanta, Georgia and come to LaGrange. So the city has done an outstanding job of actually bringing big services into such a small town. We actually have a technology center here in LaGrange, and a lot of people really don't know that. We actually started working in our technology center back in January of this year.
Okay.
But prior to that, we had a co-location spot where people, businesses could actually put their telecommunication servers or their IT servers in a secured environment.
Okay.
So we have that. A lot of small towns don't have that. We're in a good location in that we have transport out of LaGrange to the large cities like Atlanta. So for our customers out in Industrial Park coming through the city of LaGrange, we're a small telecommunications department. We're easy to do business with, which that's, you know, you'll find a lot better experience with us than you will with some of the large companies. And we can offer the same services at a more than competitive rate than the large companies. One of the things I'm proud of since I've been here at the city of LaGrange is when I came here, we started talking about internet speeds and bringing a gig of internet into LaGrange, which at the time Atlanta, Georgia didn't have that. So one of the things we've done since I've been here is we've actually turned up and we've got a gig of internet speed to offer to our customers in LaGrange. We're the only company that has that at this time in LaGrange. We've turned that up, and now we're working on our second gig. We just placed a new order for our second gig of service, and we're probably before that's in, we'll be working on our third. So this bandwidth is evolving pretty quick. People have moved from telephone service being their mission critical device to get to the world to now they have to have internet access to get to the world.
And the customer base is grabbing it up in that speed that we're having to increase pretty frequently?
Yes, our demands has actually changed. We have customers calling up asking for those kind of speeds now. They're asking for individual gig speeds. Some of the larger companies out in Industrial Park. We've got other companies that are moving, you know, relocating their businesses into our Industrial Park here in LaGrange. And you know, some of the feedback we're getting from them is how they're impressed with what we have to offer here.
That's right.
You know, they're in other towns, small rural towns, and they don't have things like a information technology center like the city of LaGrange has.
That's right.
They don't have gig speeds, and they don't have the redundancy and the backup that we actually have here.
Well, you know, it's so exciting, you know, and we have to understand that the city offers that to help the economic viability for this city, and I know that you know that first-handedly because you are in the trenches there doing that work each and every day.
Yes.
Well, you know, Charles, I know that there's a lot of information I really would love to pull out today, but our time has expired. I do want to reserve the right to have you to come back on at a later date to talk a little bit more about it, because when you talk about gigabytes, most of us, like myself, you know, all I know when I go to my computer, I want it to work, and I want it to work pretty quick. But I just would like to be able to sit down with you and just kind of show maybe a slower speed versus a gigabyte speed, if that's acceptable.
Sure. I'd love to do that, and I think it'd be good to educate people.
Right.
You know, in good layman's terms, what that means.
That's right.
And so I'd love an opportunity to actually do that.
Okay, well, great. Well, Bubba, thank you very much for being on the show today. Okay?
Thank you for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back from More City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been from the Wound Care Center at West Georgia Health, the director, Janice Edgefield, and Dr. Brahma Devi, as they talked about chronic treatments for wounds and how you can get treatment for those. So if you have in need of them, give them a call there at the number that Janice gave out. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I had from the Information Technology Center, the accounts manager, Charles Smith, better known as Bubba, and he talked about the reasons why the City of LaGrange is in the internet and telecom services. So if you're a company in our community and you have needs of those services, by all means, give him a call. I'm sure he'd be glad to come out and talk with you about those services. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed City Week for this week. And as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.